Hello my friends and welcome back to my channel. I played and tested Wild Hearts on the Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5, and in regards to HDR, I couldn't find any difference. My name is Markus, let's talk about HDR. First things first, does Wild Hearts supports the PlayStation 5 or Xbox Series HDR system level calibration? No, it does not. Regardless of what you set up in this menu, there's no impact in the game. Let's talk about the HDR settings in this game. We have brightness, we have maximum luminance, we have standard luminance, we have saturation, and we have contrast. And the first thing what you should do is changing the contrast slider, because I found with the standard factory setting 50 the game looks very washed out. I have to admit I did not play with the fine-tuned dark area settings or with the brightness slider on my TV, because I found as soon I increased the setting from 50 to 51, the picture was much better. And then we have the saturation slider, and as always you can change this as you like it, because in terms of HDR maximum peak brightness there is no impact at all. Let's jump to the brightness slider, and what I found is that the standard factory setting of 50 is actually not too bad, at least not when you change, as recommended, the contrast to 51. And now let's talk about the maximum luminance slider in this game, and this slider shows a very weird behavior here on the test pattern. As soon you increase this slider or the value, the picture goes darker, and I was actually expecting quite the opposite, but no problem at all, because during gameplay this slider is exactly doing what it is supposed to do if, and this is very important, if your standard luminance slider is set to 400. Because as soon you change the standard luminance slider just slightly, the maximum luminance slider would not deliver the correct value anymore. Let me explain what I'm talking about. With the current setting of maximum luminance set to 1000 and standard luminance set to 400, the game would ask to output around 1000 nits, which of course fits the LG G2 just perfectly. As soon you increase this value to, let's say, 500, the maximum luminance in the game in terms of maximum peak brightness would be reduced to 720 candela. And even worse, if you now decrease this, let's say, to 100, the maximum peak brightness suddenly is around 4500 candela. And that's why it is very important that you leave the standard luminance slider set to 400 if you play this game on an LG G2 A95K or S95B or any TV which has a maximum luminance or maximum peak brightness around 1000 nits or above 1000 nits, because then you can use this maximum luminance slider as you like it. If you now play this game on a, let's say, LG CX with a maximum peak brightness of around 700-800 candela, then increase this value, the standard luminance slider, from 400 to 500, because then the maximum peak brightness is around 720 candela. So let's just quickly talk about HGiG versus dynamic tone mapping, and to be very honest, I found HGiG is doing a great job in this game, because we have actually great HDR settings in the game. With my recommended settings there's no problem that I can't play this game with HGiG enabled, because it is not too dark in my opinion, but as always, if you like to have it brighter, dynamic tone mapping on is your choice. And because I tested the game also on the Xbox Series X, I tested of course Dolby Vision, but there is no native Dolby Vision support in this game, so do not expect any major difference actually between HDR10 and HGiG if you compare this with Dolby Vision. The only difference what you may see is a difference in terms of picture settings, because again this game does not support Dolby Vision natively, and that means Dolby Vision is using the HDR10 metadata, and that means no difference in terms of maximum peak brightness, no difference in terms of brightness at all, and no difference in terms of saturation or colors. Again, the only difference is maybe different picture settings on your TV. Okay my friends, that's it for this very quick video. Wild Hearts on the Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5 in regards to HDR. What do I think about HDR in this game? it is below average in my opinion, because we have some sort of elevated black levels, and even you change the contrast slider from 50 to 51, it doesn't look quite right to me. It is much better, of course, when you change the contrast slider, but there is still some sort of elevated black levels going on, and in addition we have now some sort of black level crush. So in general, HDR in this game is below average in my opinion.